Hi there, welcome to the second video in this series that I'm doing on the Black Square King Air, the 350. If you haven't come across the Black Square products before, what they do is that they take a standard Microsoft Asobo aircraft and they don't do any work on the exterior modelling at all. All their work is concentrated on the cockpit, the instruments, the systems behind it, the electrical systems, the flight envelope. So they make that more realistic, but they take it into kind of the analog age. So it's not a glass cockpit; it looks more realistic. You can control to some extent the instrumentation. You've got various switches here to control. The instrumentation you've got, whether you want a dual GPS or a single GPS, which is what I normally fly with, which GPS it's going to be. So that's my normal cockpit layout. This is what we're going to concentrate on today. The fuel panel over this side here, twin engine and two fuel tanks, and you've got various switches here that we're going to model. So really the first job is to do some test flights and see how it would normally work and how these switches would function, and without any use of your own programming, and then to program it up and make sure that you're matching what is intended by the creators of this aircraft. So we'll be looking at how the fuel tanks get used. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just go through a sort of the normal startup procedure according to the checklist, and keeping an eye on what happens to the different fuel tanks as we do that. So we need to have some electricity, so we get the battery life going. You could go for the external power, but I'll go for a battery start. And on the lever side of things over here, we would need to have that at idle. That's the power levers, propellers at full forward, and make sure that fuel is in cut-off. And then we would activate the right starter. So starter and ignition on, and obviously I'd have a look out the window to make sure that things are turning, and they are. And you can see here that that's stabilizing. Once that's stabilized, the next thing to do would be to introduce some fuel. So we bring that to low idle, and you see the fuel flow going up, and you should see this come and stabilize at about 50%, and when it gets to 50%, we'll switch the ignition off. So we're using the right main tank there. We'll turn off the ignition here, and you should see the engine light, and it's switched from the main tank to the auxiliary tank. Next thing to do would be to turn the right generator on, so we use this to generate rather than on the battery. One switch here to switch that to generator, but if you look up here, no, we haven't got anything be generated yet, so we need to reset the generator. So we'll push that up, and that does a reset to the generator, and you can see we've now got some load on that generator. So now we'll do the same for the left engine. So let's zoom out a bit. We'll push the right fuel to high idle, so we'll get more power in the engine, more electricity be generated, also recharging the battery at the same time. And we'll now turn on the left starter, and we can see that the propeller's turning. When that stabilizes here, we'll introduce the fuel. and the fuel flow is coming from the left main, and when it stabilizes at about 50% we'll turn the starter off. And that's taking it to the left auxiliary tank, and the engines are light. And we'll bring the levers back to idle and do the left generator, and just check. Yep, both generating. Okay, that's all we need for the moment, just so we can go through what's going on here with these fuel tanks. So looking at the fuel panel here, we can see it's drawing from the auxiliary tanks, and it doesn't really matter what we do with these switches here, it will carry on using those auxiliary tanks. And that confused me for a while, because I know that when I've done test flights with it, that it was definitely drawing from the main tanks. So the main tanks were being used. So why at the moment is that not happening? And then I realised, if I go to here, that when I fly according to the checklist, we turn on the auto ignition, we arm that. As soon as you arm that, I've just armed the main left one and it's switched it over here to the left main tank, not the left auxiliary tank. We'll do the same with the right one. So the auto ignition is armed, and that also seems to change the tank, the default tank. If we go back and look at the fuel panel again, now I can override this, and I've overridden the right hand one, and you can see it's now drawing from that the auxiliary tank. I can do the same with the left and choose the auxiliary here, not the main tank. So this is working as you'd expect. The cross-feed flow, at the moment, left engine is being provided with the left tank and right with the right, obviously. What we can do is we can put this to the left tank and switch on the pump here. And now you'll see that both engines are being fed from the right tank. And I can do this the opposite and have everything being taken from the left main tank, or from the left auxiliary tank, and ditto. The right auxiliary tank. So you've got total control over which tank or tanks are being used. What it doesn't do is refill a tank. It doesn't equalize by, you can't cross feed into a tank. It's just how does it go to the engine, which engine is receiving what. This button here, this switch down the bottom here, shows you at the moment the main tank or the auxiliary tank. And I have absolutely no idea what the test does. But there you are, that's working, that's how that works. So now I want to program that up onto my Stream Deck so that when I press this button here, it's going to turn that on and off, and that one and all the others. So we're going to need X's and O's. And whenever you're doing any work like this, it's really worth getting it to collect all the L bars. We want it to collect all the variables that have been created by black square, because we're going to want to use those. And it takes about 20 seconds or so for that to happen. And they're now collected. Okay, let's get that out of the way. We don't really need that. The other tool we'll probably make good use of is the behaviors tool. And we want to use the King Air analog, the analog King Air XML file. What I'm going to look for first of all is this standby pump. So changed it to there, and let's do a hunt for standby. And there's the standby pump switch left. And here's the switch code. And it tells us here that it's going to use a local variable, a variable created by a black square, and that's the name of it, the standby fuel pump switch left, and it's a boolean, it's on and off, and here's the code for it. Read the value, and that will invert it. If it's a 0, turn it to a 1. If it's a 1, turn it to a 0, and write it back into that same variable. So it's as simple as that to make this work. So we do need to use the Axis and O's editors to make that work. So if we have a look at our script editor here, and if I look at my Stream Deck first of all, you can see I've written a script here, standby, and I've misspelt it, but it still works. A standby pump left toggle. So if I do a search for pump in the black square, standby pump left toggle, there's the code. So it really is just a matter of typing that in, copying that into there. If you want to save yourself from typing, you can always insert the variable. So if we apply that filter and look in the LVARs, it would be there. So we could grab that variable from there to save yourself some typing. Okay, so you save that. I've saved it into a script group. You make a script group for the black square King Air. You can call that what you like. You can call that what you like. Just use meaningful names. And what we do here is that we put in here that it's a toggle, and we put in the it's a K, it's a key event. Tell it where the script is. It's got to have a 1. It's insisted that you send a 1 to make it work. And we ask it to read that LVAR so it knows whether it's on or whether it's off. I put repeat as no. If you're a bit slow pressing the button, you'll find that it jumps, switches on and switches off again quite quickly. So I put that as a no, and at the bottom here, click submit or Alt S to save it. And that is now allocated, so I can show you that working. I'm going to press, let's tidy it up, press that button on my Stream Deck, and you'll see that it's working. And what I've done on the Stream Deck, I'll bring that up to the front, you'll see that it changes the appearance of the button, so I know whether it's on or whether it's off. So on the on, I've put a green background, and on the off, it's a green, and when it's on, it's a sort of lime colour. And it also changes the colour of the text as well. Okay, so that's how we do that. Exactly the same for the right hand side, except of course the variable has got an R on it, so it's a copy and paste job, and edit the left to the right, allocate it to your button, and you can see that's working there. Okay, so that's the pumps. The transfer override. The transfer switch, exactly the same structure, just the variable name is the transfer pump override left, Same script, read it, invert it, write it back in again. So it's not difficult to create the override switch. And if I bring my Stream Deck up, you can see that working now. So that's all working fine. So these toggle switches are relatively easy to make. This one's a little trickier, the crossfeed one, because the crossfeed has 3 different states. Let's have a look at that crossfeed. So these are the 3 different states. Position 0 is in the center, but that's off. Position 2 is over on the right hand side, and position 1 is it to the left. And you can watch that happen if you go to the local variables here, and if we filter down for the crossfeed valve, it's 0 at the moment when it's in the middle. And if I move that to the right, you can see it's gone to 2. And if you switch it to the left, it's gone to 1. So there's 1, 0, 2. So we need to write a script that will, or scripts that will work for a 3-position switch. And there are a couple of different ways of doing it, but I'll show you what I think I prefer to do now. One other little thing to notice is in this behavior, you notice it's also switching on a circuit. So when it's in position 2, that pump has to be on, or circuit or valve or whatever that's controlling. Same here, that when it's in the left, a valve or something is activated by circuit number 7. But when it's in the off position, when it's 0, 0, then you can see that these are off. Okay, so that's what we need to do. Let's have a look at the scripts that I've written, and you'll see what's going on. So my black square cross feeds. This is my preferred solution at the moment. Is if I want to move that switch to the left, it could be starting from position 0. So if it is starting from the off position, I want it to go to the left. So I want it to become 1, and I want the circuit to be switched on. If the switch is all the way over in the right hand side, if it's in position 2, when I press it, I want it to come to the center, to the off position, and I want the circuit to be switched off. So it's using this if statement. If you've not seen this before, this is how it works. It's read the value of the variable and compare it to 0. If the 2 are equal, then do this bit. This one here, read it, compare it. If they're both 2, if they're equal, do that. Okay, so that's how this works. And these are the curly brackets that surround the if statements. So that's to move it left, and if I want to move it right, again, it could be coming from a number of different locations. If it's coming from the off position, move it to the right, to the 2 position, and switch the circuit on. If it's over on the left hand side, if it's in position 1, move it to position 0 and switch the circuit off. So it's pretty much the same structure. So this is how I've allocated it to on my Stream Deck. It's an event, and the normal thing to do, if I just press the button, it'll do a move to the left from wherever it is. If it's in position 2, it moves to the center. If it's in the center, it moves it to the far left. We have to give it an event value 1 to make it happen, and I don't want it to repeat. I just want 1 click to make it make 1 move. But on the long press, if I hold it down for a long time, it'll do the opposite. it'll, after 750, so it's less than a second, 750 milliseconds, it will do the right instead of the left. So I've got two functions on that button, and of course press submit. So if I demonstrate that to you working, if I show you that working, let's just have my Stream Deck up so you can see what's going on. If I do a short press on that button there, you see it's moved to the left, and it switched the circuit on and moved it to the left. If I now hold it down for just about a second, it's moved it to the right, and press it again, holding a long button, it's pressed it to the right. A short press moves it to the left. So I've managed to create a button that works in 3 states. I color code it yellow to remind myself that it'll have 2 functions. It's a short press for the left and a long press to move it right. The last button on here is the auxiliary, is this one that goes to tell you which tank we're reading. And I've tried very hard to try to track this one down. And finding it very hard to find that one. But I did manage to track something down. So if we go back to my script editor here, and if we look at the black square tank, I've got this script here to toggle the tank in, toggling the tank indicator. And this is all I can find at the moment, is this fuel quantity test switch. I can't really find anything else that applies. It does work, and if we look at the quantity, the switch here, there's the code here. It's that variable here, there. It's playing with the fuel tank selector, and it's got 3 positions. So I've used that variable there, and really I'm just toggling between 0 and 1. I can't really make the test to do anything. And if I show you the script, it's just that toggle thing that we do before. Read the variable, invert it, and write it back in again. So that's what the tank indicator does. And it works. So if I press that on my Stream Deck, you'll see it's going to read the auxiliary tanks and now the main tanks. But I can't animate the switch. I've looked everywhere for it. If anybody else can find it, I'd really like to know how we animate that. The best I can find for these animations are these values here. But it's an O variable, and you can't write to, as far as I can see, you can't write into an O variable, so I can't change this animation position. So again, on my Stream Deck, it's color coded with caution. It works, but that's what it does. In fact, I put a long press in, so that it does position 2, but it just like this in position 2, it doesn't really do anything particular. Because if you go from auxiliary to get to test position, you've got to go through the main. So you'll see the main, and then I have no idea what that does. Okay, so that's it. That's the fuel panel done, and the vagaries, the bit I didn't understand about having the having to switch that on to make it use the main tanks. Okay, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.